If you
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue.
Welcome to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, powered by Jack's Angels, where we talk about your experiences, advocacy news, research, and today's heroes for kids. We are here to bring hope to the unthinkable but real experience of a child diagnosed with cancer. Jack's Angels advocacy mission is to provide a voice for children with cancer to effect change for a more hopeful future for those to come. Childhood Cancer Talk Radio starts right now. Here is your host, Janet Demeter.
Well, welcome to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where every child is a life, not a number, on toginet.com. I'm Janet Demeter, your host, and today's show is devoted to a young lady in the UK in our childhood cancer community who is courageously battling rhabdomyosarcoma, alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma, to be specific, after having faced several heavy rounds of radiation chemotherapy. She's thankfully now on maintenance chemotherapy. She joins me today with her mom, Samantha Waters, in charge of managing Ellie's case, as well as her brothers and sisters from two different households. So if you've never listened to our show before, we do our best to provide a sense of community, support, education, and awareness for those directly and indirectly affected by childhood cancer. If you are simply curious, we are certain that the issues represented here are not isolated in the least, but are manifestations of broader issues in our society today. Arguably, the issue of largest proportion is the fact that childhood cancer research is underfunded. Smaller patient populations are considered high risk for investment. The profit motive dominates the industry, hence our medical research priorities. Urgency of need is passed over for the promise of quick and large returns on investments. This is not isolated to the United States, as this is an international show, but is prevalent in the UK and Australia as well. In the United States, only 4% of our tax dollars dedicated to cancer research target all pediatric cancers, the numbers of which are vast, and they are all considered rare. So you're listening to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio on toginet.com, powered by Jack's Angels Foundation at www.jacksangels.org on the web, and it is my great pleasure to introduce to you today. This is our heroine of the week on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, survivor Ellie Waters and her mom, Samantha. Though I am, hopefully awaiting her joining us. We may be having some technical difficulties. I will try. Let's see. Ellie, are you there? Sam, are you there? I think we don't have them yet. So I'm just going to continue on because I have a few things to report to you today. First of all, Ellie Waters is 15 years old. She has quite the Facebook following at Team Ellie Blog. That's TeamEllie, and then blog. That's Facebook. And then Instagram is also Team Ellie _blog. And then her website, go to teengirllivingwithcancer.blogspot.co.uk. That's teengirllivingwithcancer.blogspot.co.uk. And on YouTube, her channel is Team Ellie. And so, when Ellie does join us, she is going to talk to us about the realities that you experience as a teenager. She's 15 years old, dealing with cancer. In fact, one of the photographs on her Facebook page is in red. It's like, the students or the paparazzi, and we're walking on the red carpet. It's all quite the photo experience of being, under the microscope. It's not, as you may well know, cancer for kids is, with relatively speaking, it's rare. There aren't a lot of children in each area population with the disease, but some towns are different than others. The gal we talked to last week, Morgan Platt, from a town in Connecticut, Avon, Connecticut, there were 8 children in their town that had cancer, and it's a very small town. So you never know. But the experience can be kind of like being on the spotlight, and I'm awaiting hearing from Ellie and what that is like for her. And her mom as well. Samantha, who we call familiarly Sam, she also expressed, the difficulties of managing. First it was her family had been split before Ellie was diagnosed. There are 2 girls, Ellie and Olivia, and then the diagnosis. And currently Ellie lives with her mom, and the other kids go back and forth. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's not for me to disclose. But again, it can be a very complicated thing, a very stressful thing, big change for everyone. But their number one motivation is to save Ellie and to be a team for her. She's doing well. There's no diagnosis of cancer that's not, I think, scary to a certain extent for children, because they really don't know what causes it in kids until they start doing a little more research into causes and conditions. We're all going to be jumping. So we're still having difficulties reaching our guest. I still haven't gotten the contact information from them, but we're going to move on because we have some important advocacy and research news for you. I have an update for you on a former guest, and actually she was on here twice. The first time was our first show on the 14th of January. Her name is Jamie King, and unfortunately her daughter Katie has passed away 3 days ago on the 6th of June. Katie had, of course, she had DIPG, diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, which is the deadliest pediatric cancer. It's a brain stem tumor that's diffuse, so diffusely infiltrating, so that it can't be surgically removed. Right now, everything is experimental with it. There are no survivors. And Jamie, among moms, faced this whole problem with an amazing attitude of strength. Now that in the childhood cancer community, especially in the DIPG community, oh my goodness, just a few years ago, you were treated like it was so rare, you'd been struck by lightning. I went through it with my son, and I'm telling you, I thought I was the only person on the planet. And it wasn't until, unfortunately, after he had passed that I realized that, oh my gosh, DIPG is responsible for 80% of pediatric brain tumor deaths every year, roughly. Okay? Now, brain tumors are the leading cause of death in children with cancer right now. They've made huge strides, not in pediatric research, but in adult research for leukemia, which they have translated. I call it the trickle-down theory of medical research, but that's what children get, basically. Only 2 medicines developed until this last year, one for neuroblastoma that's been very successful, but before that, for like 30 years, there were only 2 therapies brought to the table for kids. So it's a horrible thing indeed when you're told basically that, okay, you hear that your child's terminal, and then you hear that, well, we don't have anything for them because the numbers aren't great enough for investors. So basically you discover when you enter this strange world of cancer for kids that kids, there isn't a lot there for them because they're all considered rare, and somehow this rare word is equated with insignificant, which many of us are fed up with, to say the very least. So, but in mentioning Jamie King was on here, our very first show, 2 days after the Moonshot Initiative was announced, and a day after the first ever mention of DIPG on the national stage. HRES 586, that is in the United States. We're hoping something like this goes global. But anyway, it was just a very fortuitous moment. I think that the case of Catherine the Brave is very important because Jamie made sure to document everything They shared everything publicly, all the tough stuff, not to overemphasize or dramatize, but to truly represent what the experience is like. And it's priceless, because it's one thing to talk about it. You know, you say that all of the children die and you don't believe it, right? I mean, it's one thing to think about, but then it's another thing to see it. And she's really provided the world with a very, very important opportunity to spread awareness for this horrible disease and the urgent need for research for kids with brain cancer, for all of our kids with cancer. But with these brain tumors where they're dying, you know, for certain, not maybe, or maybe there's a chance, even, you know, back then a few years ago, because the awareness was so low, you know, I'd never heard of it before and I didn't see anyone else like me. I thought, wow, maybe we can beat this. It's an awful thing. At any rate, Catherine the Brave, long live Catherine the Brave story, because I know that it's going to be instrumental in bringing about change for our kids. Go to res586.com. See how you can support this resolution. Tell your congressman that you want him to sign it, him or her, and also tell your senators we want partner legislation in the Senate. I went to D.C. recently to advocate for that, and so the ones that I spoke to were actually very supportive of it. There was only one senator that wasn't, and this senator was, you know, with the mainstream that generally says, I'm sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once here. The mainstream generally says, oh, we're not going to focus on one, just one disease. We can't do that. And it's like, well, if there's a house burning down, you got to put the fire out, okay? Can't pretend that it's not there, because you're going to, you know, offend another building. But at any rate, that's what happens now, and it has to stop. We have to, until we're willing to roll up our sleeves, until we're willing to face and name the worst cancers, those most urgently in need, and look at their pain and actually feel something for them. That's what it's going to take to cure cancer. I know it's great getting these hundreds of philanthropic organizations together to fight it. Oh, isn't that exciting? But until we start looking at these kids, until we start looking at these individual cases, it's not going to change. So that's my spiel for now. Hopefully we'll have our friends on in just a minute. I'm Janet Demeter for Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure. Powered by Jack's Angels Foundation at www.jacksangels.org. We'll be right back after these messages from our fantastic TogiNet sponsors. Don't go away.
Stay tuned. Janet will be right back with more on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure.
In today's business world, a helping hand or idea that doesn't come with an invoice is a treasured find. And if that happens to you, then you need to pay it forward to keep other entrepreneurs from making mistakes or getting a raw deal. It's called Paying It Forward with Josephine Gerasi, Wednesday mornings at 10, 9 a.m. Central. Josephine is going to have the guests describe their accomplishments, the lessons they've learned, both good and bad, and then sharing those pieces of knowledge as we create a movement of paying it forward. For more information about Josephine, her business, and background, you can go to mymomknowsbest.com. Josephine Gerasi has always been a problem solver. She saw this need and has turned it into a movement. It's Paying It Forward, with tips, tools, and advice and hard lessons learned. These pieces of knowledge can make a huge difference for you, your business, and others. So join us for Paying It Forward with Josephine Gerasi, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
It's words you never heard.
Okay, ladies, listen up. Did you know recent studies are suggesting that women with skinny waists but sizable hips are smarter than other women? Scientists at the University of Pittsburgh and the University of California gave cognitive tests to a group of 16,000 women and girls of different body types and found the women with the greatest hip-to-waist proportions scored higher. I guess that would make me a walking Encyclopedia Britannica. No, hold on. That doesn't mean it's okay for us to be a powder pigeon. That's another name for a woman whose sizable hips can take up a whole supermarket aisle. Research suggests that the fat around fuller hips and thighs holds higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids, which helps the brain. I'm not sure if I would rather be able to do the Sunday crossword puzzle or get into those jeans I bought 10 years ago.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
You'll always have my shoulder when you cry.
Welcome back to more great conversation on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, because every child's life deserves hope. Here's Janet.
Hey, welcome back to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, powered by Jack's Angels Foundation for Pediatric Brain Tumor Awareness and Support, right here on toginet.com. And today we are waiting to have the honor of speaking with Miss Ellie Waters, our heroine of the week here at Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, and her mom Samantha. And before the break, I was talking about some very important developments lately in the DIPG community of the childhood cancer community. DIPG is the second most common pediatric brain tumor. It's responsible, though, for, unfortunately, most of the deaths by brain tumor for kids each year. And brain tumors are the leading cause of death in kids with cancer. So it's a hot topic right now for us because awareness is so urgently needed for these families that are losing their kids right and left. And no parent should hear that there are no solutions available for them because the numbers aren't great enough for research investors. That's kind of like the blowtorch behind me that keeps me going and keeps me with advocacy work. So I was talking about our first guest that was on our show, Jamie King. Jamie and David King had a beautiful daughter named Katie, Catherine the Brave, AKA, please check out her page on Facebook. That's Catherine the Brave. And also they have a website, regular web address at www.catherinethebrave.org. This is an important case because it is unprecedented. It's historic. No one has ever come forward, at least that I've seen, in such a public way and shared pretty much every detail of the most difficult parts of this journey that's DIPG. And why are we we're singling it out, not because it's more important than other children with cancer at all, but using it as an example that how could something so horrific, so determinately terminal without question, not get attention. And here we are going, oh, moonshot, let's cure cancer. Let's go to all these big guys around the world when there's something right under our noses that urgently needs help. And what? We do nothing? And say, oh, we can't focus on any particular disease. That would be unfair to others. Like, what? What are emergency rooms for? What are firefighters for? I'm sorry. It's so outrageous, and people are just expected to accept it over and over and over again. And now fortunately, because of the uprising of the advent of social media and these, technology, which joins us in so many ways around the world, we can get to know each other pretty intimately, and to share our experiences. Now there's just such a lack of tolerance. And I really believe that with her sharing her and documenting her experience, that it's going to help accelerate this change. Go to hres586.com if you're in the United States. Check it out if you're in another country too, just because we need this awareness around the world right now for our kids and for childhood cancer. The point of this resolution is to exemplify childhood cancer with DIPG in its dastardly horribleness. My terrible grammar here, but because there really are no words. But the whole point is to exemplify the plight of childhood cancer and the neglect of it, less than 4% of our national budget for cancer research, which is really supposed to be for our most vulnerable, most needy of citizens, correct? Not following the same route as the private sector, which of course, presumably is profit based, and you have to be to a certain extent. But come on, with our tax dollars, there are enough of us parents that have been fed up with it, and we want some sort of mechanism of accountability within the NCI that has to answer to Congress or us in some way, shape, or form. And hugely around the country, a lot of people have been rising up for a long time saying 4% is not enough. Okay. At first, in 2014, there was a big campaign on emails to tell, because people were mad when they first found out about that number, to the NCI, and the NCI took, obviously some offense to it, because there are good guys, really. I mean, some of our best researchers in the world are at NCI, and some of our only cancer research funding comes from NCI, right? Okay. So we don't want to attack the National Cancer Institute, but we want to tell the administration and we want to tell Congress that we want some sort of say into how our tax dollars, for our people with cancer, how the research goes. Those who are most needy of it need to get more. It's not rocket science. The research is amazing science, and thank God for parents. Some companies in the private sector, like ABC Squared, like there's a new nonprofit biotech called CCTR6, the Children's Cancer Therapy Development Institute, completely dedicated to eradicating childhood cancer, making it survivable in all its forms. Thank God, and for parents too, coming together, creating those foundations like the Cure Starts Now, and all the founding members of the DIPG Collaborative, making it possible to fund some of this research, that they're finally getting some glimmers of hope. But I'm hoping here now that I've explained some of this to you. The reason why Catherine's story was so important is this disease has been suffered in silence for so long, like with so many childhood cancers, and it's just time. It's time to notice that it's been too long. And now I hope that we can come back here and say hello to our heroine of the week, Miss Ellie. Are you there?
Yeah, hi.
You made it. I am so happy. Yep. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Great. So it's late at night there, right?
Yeah, it's about nearly 9:30 at
All
night.
right. Well, I'm so glad you could make it on the show. Is your mom there as well?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, we got there eventually.
Yay, it's all worth it. My gosh, so I've been going on and on here about the importance of more research for kids, and I was hoping that maybe just to begin our conversation, you could tell us a little bit about, your first experience with the medical system, with being diagnosed with, and what that was like, and how it changed your world. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Ellie?
Yeah, it was pretty hard, because obviously I came from no medical experience at all to just being thrown into the deep end of chemotherapy, and I found it was all quite exciting. I found it a bit weird, because the scans I found quite exciting, because even though it was to find out what cancer I had, it was going all around the hospital, something I'd never experienced before, and it was all just new stuff. It was okay. Chemotherapy was pretty rubbish. So.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, how long did it take them to figure out what kind of cancer you had?
It was about 5 days.
And it was the alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It's a soft tissue cancer. No, really. Mum, do you have anything?
Yeah, it's a soft tissue and muscle cancer. I know there's two types. There's
No, I think it's 3 types.
Is there 3 types? Oh, okay. I didn't find those 5 days exciting at all. I found it really, really daunting and trying to read faces of people, and literally you just saw cancer everywhere. It was on the wall, it was in all the literature, and like it was just everywhere. But Ellie was really poorly at that time, so she sort of was in and out sleeping, wasn't she, most of the time?
So you weren't
feeling very well. Which is the godsend, really. So she wasn't scared because she was just so poorly.
Wow. So you had you not been feeling well for a long time? What happened?
Yes. So I found a lump in my left bum cheek probably around March 2015. I think that's just like an estimate. And then I've been, in about May, I've been getting like really quite bad constipation. And I kind of like just kept up with it until throughout the summer holidays as well. I don't know why I kept up with it so long. I was quite stubborn, I guess. And my legs, I used to do a lot of running and football or soccer in America, and my legs just started aching as well. So that was basically my main symptoms. And near the time when I got diagnosed, I found it hard to pass urine, and that was because the tumour was wrapping around my kidneys, so that was pretty bad.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
So how are you doing now? I'm assuming you're walking probably more than running, or are you able to be running?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good now. I still need to kind of get my energy back, and obviously the foot drop caused by chemotherapy, I can't really run very well at the moment. I mostly just walk.
Right. But my gosh, I'm sure that your mom probably didn't eat those first few days when you were in the hospital. No. I was going to ask you.
No, I think I remember saying to the oncologist that I couldn't eat more than a roll. Like, I'd sort of pick up a roll like throughout the day, and she's like, you need to eat more than that. And it was just, you just couldn't. It just felt like you had this lump in your throat, and you just couldn't focus on anything. I'd start doing something, and then I'd get distracted, and then I'd have to do something else, and it was hell, really. And then some people said, oh, I bet you spoke to all the parents there, but I found that we kept ourselves to ourselves because your own horror was enough without taking notice. You know, you walked around the ward, it's a mixed ward. Towards the back of the ward, it's mainly teens. But there's babies there, there's like little tots, and it was such an eye-opener. Like really early on, you don't realise, you think it's really, really rare, childhood cancer.
Right. We're gonna come back in just a minute.
Yeah.
We have to take a quick break, okay? But I really want to get, this is very important because people don't realize how isolated you are. I'm Janet Demeter with Childhood Cancer Talk Radio. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Janet will be right back with more on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure.
In today's business world, a helping hand or idea that doesn't come with an invoice is a treasured find. And if that happens to you, then you need to pay it forward to keep other entrepreneurs from making mistakes or getting a raw deal. It's called Paying It Forward with Josephine Girassi, Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Central. Josephine is going to have the guests describe their accomplishments, the lessons they've learned, both good and bad, and then sharing those pieces of knowledge as we create a movement of paying it forward. For more information about Josephine, her business, and background, you can go to mymomknowsbest.com. Josephine Girassi has always been a problem solver. She saw this need and has turned it into a movement. It's Paying It Forward, with tips, tools, and advice, and hard lessons learned. These pieces of knowledge can make a huge difference for you, your business, and others. So join us for Paying It Forward with Josephine Girassi, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
If you have a lot of spizzerinctum or the will to win, and you have a strong desire to be a part of your favorite sports team, the National Hockey League might be for you. Did you know that if both goalies on an NHL hockey team are injured, anyone at the game is eligible to step in and play the part? Teams have resorted to using their coaches, team owners, and even their web designers to fill in for injured goalies. It's as simple as slipping into your breezers or hockey pants. The original hockey puck was made out of frozen cow dung. The fastest puck shot on record was clocked at 114 miles per hour. And I'd like to take this opportunity to send out a special thanks to the men and women of our armed forces serving our country around the world.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to more great conversation on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, because every child's life deserves hope. Here's Janet.
And we're back again with Childhood Cancer Talk Radio. I'm Janet Demeter, your host, and I hope you enjoyed the messages from our TogiNet sponsors. I always get a big kick out of them. I think they're great. I am so fortunate today. We finally have our guest with us. I'm sorry you had to listen to me for so long. It's so much better when I have guests. But we have a very special lady with us, Miss Ellie Waters, visiting us from the UK today on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, along with her mom, Samantha. And we were talking about, ladies, before the break, you were filling us in on what the whole initial experience was like, and how, you know what, sometimes people don't understand how shocking and jolting and horrific it is, and how you're not just, you know, all of a sudden ready to join up with others and and find support. It's a very isolating experience.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think the very first support thing I did was just on Facebook. I just reached out to people there. That was the very first thing I did. And I've got a good circle of friends, and they were amazing, like literally just keep in check on me, make sure you eat, make sure you drink, stuff like that, because that 5 days, you just didn't know where you were. I mean, when we got the diagnosis as well, that's a whole other thing.
Yes.
As well. But then at least you have a plan. You've got a plan, and you know what you're doing, and, you know, that made that bit easier. So it's right, this is what we've got to do. And then it just became a new normal. And it's the only way I can describe it. You know, everyone says, oh, how do you manage? You know, but you just have to. You don't have a choice. This is what we're going to do. And I said to Ellie, like, very early on, like, this is what it is, and this is what we're going to be. And me and you are we're just going to do it together, and we're going to just beat it. You know, that was it. It was just as clear as that, you know.
That's great.
You know, every scan, every MRI, everything, they've let me go in the room, and I've been there. And, you know, you can't do it for them, but as much as I could, I'd do, so she's not doing it on her own. And I think that's important as well, because they don't, as much as, you know, she's 15 now, it's scary, you know,
yeah.
And she has said, you know, because you see the littler ones, they're kind of oblivious a little bit. They don't really realise, you know, like they're whizzing up and down the halls on their little IV trolley and that. And, you know, then there's Ellie, she's sort of Googling everything, and you try to shield them. You try to shield them from it, but you can't. And I found that quite hard. You know, we say don't Google, but of course I Googled, and so did she.
As much.
No, you had a little bit, didn't you? But it's just so scary, and all the stuff that you read, you know, like someone did say to me once that the ones that have done it and made it are out there living. They're not on there, like, posting stuff on Facebook. And so sometimes you don't see a rounded picture. You see a lot of the negative as opposed to the positive stuff.
Yes.
You know, but, you know, we didn't realise, you know, how little funding it gets and things like that. That was an eye-opener as well, because you just think it's that rare. It'll always happen to somebody else, but it doesn't. You know, it can happen to anybody.
That's right. They don't know what causes it.
Yeah. Because we've met babies, haven't we? But there's a little girl we've met. She's 15 months old now, I think, and she was born with rhabdomyosarcoma.
Oh, my gosh.
It's literally, we've seen babies in the wards, haven't we, that have been born with it. And I never envisaged that babies could be born with cancer. You know, you just think, you know, it's a thing as you age, or it's your lifestyle affects it, but it isn't. You know, it's more far-reaching than that.
Exactly. So how long was it for you in the hospital until you realized, you know, exactly what it was and what you were facing and had a plan?
It was about 5 days. Initially, we were in hospital for 7 days, and that was because they were treating Ellie for a suspected abscess. They thought the lump that she had in her bum cheek was an abscess. So we had that operated on. And they opened it up, and they realised it wasn't an abscess, but they were still treating it as if it was an abscess, and they kept telling me that they'd sent off tissue samples, and I get the impression now, looking back, they were backpedaling. They were trying to work out what it was, but they couldn't say anything. And we got to the 7th day, and they were still telling us that we could go home, weren't they, the day after. We were just waiting for a community nurse to come out and pack her wound. And then literally that evening they came in and they said, we need to have a chat with you. They pulled me aside and said that they thought it was, I had this locum doctor tell me that they thought it was cancer. Literally like that. And then she said, the following morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, you will be transferred to a cancer ward, which is about an hour and 15 minutes away in an ambulance. And that was that. And that's all the information that you got. And then we went to that cancer ward and we spent 5 days there having all the tests. She had bone scans, MRI, kidney function. She had like loads of tests, port fitted. And, you know, that was hell. She seemed to think that was fun, but that was hell. Because I was trying to read all their faces, like, because they're looking at a screen and they can see something, but I can't see it. So I was trying to get, because the doctor, she was very, very good, Ellie's consultant, very, very early on. She said to me, she was 99% sure that this was cancer, but there was a 1% that it wasn't, and it was something else. So I was clinging to that 1%. I just kind of dealt with it. Ellie, cancer. Yeah, and Ellie was like, nah, got cancer. So, you know, I was just clinging to that. And I mean, I'd never heard of rhabdomyosarcoma. When she said to me, I was like, oh my God, I've never even heard of that. And then you're thrown into this whole world of all these different medicines. I didn't realise that there's thousands of chemotherapy medicines. You know, you find out that you get this medicine and then it makes all your neutrophils drop and just all this other stuff. It's like really early on, it was so much to take in. Wow. You know, it was a lot. And she spent a month in hospital as well at the beginning, didn't you? Really poorly. I mean, when they first gave her chemotherapy, she was 3.5 litres positive in fluid because her kidneys weren't working. So she literally was taking on all the fluid from the chemo and the flush that they use after to flush it through your system. So, like, all these things. Plus, she's still dealing with a wound that they'd opened up thinking that it was an abscess. So she had that as well. She was so poorly. I think in a way that it was a saving grace because you just sort of got used to stuff, didn't you? You got used to it. And the staff.
Well, Ellie, that wasn't that long ago, was it?
No, that was September last year. So it's not that long ago. It seems ages now, doesn't it? Yeah. It seems ages. Wow. But it went by quite quick. She had 3 weekly chemo in blocks, and that seemed to go quite quick, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And she was lucky. She didn't have, other than her chemo, we didn't really end up in hospital too much, did we? A lot of kids end up with their temperatures and things. We did Christmas night, didn't we? We ended up.
Luckily I've never had an infection.
No,
So
never had an
lucky with
infection.
that.
And what was that? I'm sorry? You never had what?
I've never had an infection. Quite a lot of the kids will have to go in at least once throughout their treatment with an infection, but fortunately I've never had it. I've just had sleep temperatures.
Yeah, she's had a spiked temperature a couple of times, but because when they're neutropenic, they have to err on the side of caution. They give IV antibiotics, and then they try and work out to see if it's an infection or not, but she's never actually had an infection. You can get things like kidney infections and nasty infections that are dormant in you if you've got a normal sort of resistance to it. But when you've got no resistance, you're susceptible to stuff like that. But she's been really lucky. And she didn't have to have her tumour went with chemotherapy, didn't it? But I think radiotherapy she found the hardest.
It was the worst. I hated it. The side effects are not nice.
Yeah, definitely. Is that how one loses the hair, or is that from the chemo?
No, it's from the chemotherapy that I lost my hair.
That happened really quick, didn't it?
Yeah, for me that happened really quick. It was literally like a week after my chemo.
Yeah, and it doesn't just come out like in the sort of in the movies. It looks like it comes out and it's on your pillow, literally wove into the rest of her hair. It was like one big dreadlock, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was bizarre, and it was out in places, wasn't it? And then still attached in others. So it was really hard. I found it really hard. She just wanted rid of it because it was itching where it had come off, and her head felt hot and stuff. But I had to cut it away from my head, didn't I, initially, and then save the rest off, which I hated because she had beautiful long hair. But but she was glad when it was gone.
Yeah, I was. I'll set up with it.
And also,
I've seen your pictures,
so long
and you're stunning. You're stunning without your hair too. You're a beautiful girl. You. And we're going to have to take one more break, okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Just for our listeners, I'm Janet Demeter, and you're listening to Toginet.com with Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where every child is a life, not a number, brought to you by Jack's Angels Foundation for pediatric brain tumor awareness and support. When we come back, we'll have a brief bit of advocacy and research news, and then return to our conversation with our star today, Ellie Waters, fighting rhabdomyosarcoma of Team Ellie. Ellie's blog can be found at Teen Girl Living with Cancer at blogspot.co.uk. That's Teen Girl Living with Cancer at blogspot.co.uk. We'll be right back after this.
Stay tuned. Janet will be right back with more on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure.
About the Gaberlunzie bear caught rummaging through a refrigerator in an apartment in Colorado? The tenant heard noises coming from the kitchen and saw a bear with his head in the fridge, looking for anything it could eat. What's a word for food that's unfit for human consumption? Ma wallop. The tenant locked himself in his bedroom and called for help. What's a word for the fear of bears? Ursophobia. We have lots of bears near our Colorado cabin, and we have been told that pepper spray will keep them away. But the idea that it would keep a 500-pound grizzly bear from attacking seems ridiculous to me. I think I'll try the pepper spray on myself and hope the bear doesn't like spicy foods.
It's Marching Neighborhood.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Secret Cuisines and Sacred Rituals is a quest, a place, and a feast. Join host Vilasi Venkatachalam every week to explore myths, mystique, old medicine, and brilliant modern solutions through a dazzling kaleidoscope of cuisines, cultures, and cures. This is the place where tribes gather, strangers and familiars, to be memory keepers and makers of our evolving, enduring, evergreen, spoken legacy of wisdom and ingenuity. In Velasi's words, when we do old things in new ways and new things in old ways, we paint with an inspired palette, weave our own healing traditions, and become our own guru. Vilasi is a troubadour of secret cuisines and sacred rituals. She collects stories of wisdom, ingenuity, and grit. She believes wellness and transformation happen when you stand at the threshold of delight and discovery. She displays her hidden penchant for drama when she leads the safari at the supper club. Her favorite pastime is to extol the marvels of cuisines, cultures, and cures. To her audience in workplaces, seminars, and salons, her mantra is, be your own guru. She is a biochemist, botanist, and alchemist who likes to churn delightful, useful things from a brew of art and science, ancient and evolving, old medicine, and new cures. Join Vilasi every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, only here on the Woohoo Radio Network.
You'll always have my shoulder when you cry.
Welcome back to more great conversation on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, because every child's life deserves hope. Here's Janet.
And we're back again with Childhood Cancer Talk Radio. I'm Janet Demeter, your host, and I hope you enjoyed our messages. I am so fortunate today to have Miss Ellie visiting from the UK, along with her mom Samantha, to speak with us about their experience. Ellie has been battling and winning her turn with rhabdomyosarcoma, alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma. And you know what, Ellie? I looked up on the NCI spreadsheet here in the U.S. About alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma because it made me think of the lungs, with the alveoli in the lungs. And I looked on the definitions, and it's just because of the particular pattern in which the cancer grows that it's called that. It kind of looks like alveoli sacs or something in the lungs. Could you let us know a little bit more what this cancer is and what it's like, and what you're up against in your fight?
Yeah, I think it's quite a rare cancer. I think they said the statistics we got was 60 children in the UK diagnosed with rhabdomyosarcoma. It's quite an aggressive cancer as well. I mean, whenever you look at statistics and things, it has quite a high reoccurrence rate as well, which is like one of the things that Ellie sort of looked into and worried her. And it's one of the ones that's quite hard to treat as well. I think it's more common, actually, in boys under 10, which is quite strange when Ellie was a girl and she's 14. But and we've yet to meet someone of Ellie's age group that actually has it, aren't we? Yeah. In the UK. We've met a few infants with rhabdomyosarcoma. And she's met some from the USA as well, and a girl in Australia, haven't you, that's got rhabdomyosarcoma? Yeah.
Well, I'll let you know that the CCTDI company I was telling you about, Children's Cancer Therapy Development Institute, has just, I believe, made a partnership with a Swiss pharmaceutical company that's allowing them to test like 60,000 different compounds. They're really working hard on rhabdomyosarcoma. So check them out. They're at they're at cc-tdi.org. That's Children's Cancer Therapy Development Institute. I just love them because they're a nonprofit. The scientific directors, a former, one of the top researchers in NCI and in childhood cancer, and both he and Jonathan Agan, they've both been on the show before, but they were both turned on to doing the company because of the inspiration of a child, either what a child said to them, or unfortunately in Jonathan's case, he lost his daughter to DIPG, which you may know is universally fatal.
Yes.
But But
Yeah,
these guys, inspired by children, this company for children, really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. We know a little girl called Kira with DIPG. And not very nice things are written about that either. It's just horrible. Really, you don't really know, but it's there. You don't before Ellie was diagnosed. I thought that childhood cancer was really, 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 really rare. And
right.
Since then, you see it everywhere. Since Ellie was diagnosed, I see it everywhere. I don't know whether you choose not to see it before until you're personally affected or you or know someone that's got it. I don't know whether that is it. Whether you're
doesn't really matter,
your eyes are open. I don't know whether that is it, or it's just more common now.
I think it is.
Yeah,
my bias.
Think it is. Yeah, I mean, since Ellie's been diagnosed, there's another little girl just in the town across from us, and she's got earwing sarcoma. And, you think, oh, wow, that it's so rare. And then you've got two kids that sort of live relatively close to each other, but it isn't actually that rare. Even though the Macmillan nurses, we call them Macmillan nurses in the UK, they are like cancer nurses. They say it's that rare, childhood cancer, that our surgery, our GP surgery, probably will have only ever dealt with one child with cancer, and that's Ellie. They reckon it's that rare. But it doesn't feel that rare. Not to us, does it?
No. And so Ellie, what has it been like going back to school? Are you able to be at school full time?
Yeah, I go for 2 hours a day, and yeah, it's really great actually. It's quite fun just to get back into the schoolwork, but you do really feel like a celebrity, and all the attention's on you. Everyone just kind of stops and stares, and people who were your good friends before, they just don't really know what to say to you anymore. So that's quite sad. But other than that, it's pretty cool.
That's good. Well, you have a good attitude. I'm at least you're, the most important thing is that you're having a good time.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying, before you guys came on, because there was a period when we couldn't reach you, that when my son, Jack, had DIPG, and when he was diagnosed, we felt like it was so rare, we'd been struck by lightning, and the statistics they would give us sounded like the statistics that, one sperm is going to meet an egg or something like that. I mean, it was crazy, and then after he died, I found out, oh my gosh, this tumor is the second most common brain tumor, and it's responsible for most of the deaths. And
Wow.
And it's a scary thing when you feel like, oh my gosh, then there are thousands of people you find on these networks. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I really think that the world is small, and sometimes in certain parts of the world get more isolated than others, and you can go on most of your life being unaware of something, but a need as urgent as our kids. With cancer, you just can't there's just no excuse to put a blind eye to it anymore. And that's why we're on the air, really, is because I believe that the community needs a place where they can get together and amplify their voice in whatever way, and I hope that it's helpful, but I love being able to have you on just to talk about your experience, what it's like, because it's a really important view into life that the people are getting. There are going to be people listening to the show who haven't had a direct contact with childhood cancer, and you're just plainly telling your experience like it is, and it's not that much different from others. So it's really important.
But that's one of the reasons that Ellie started her blog as well.
Let's talk about that.
She was quite isolated initially in the hospital, and I think one of the doctors or the nurses said, write stuff down. write stuff down, because that helps you compartmentalize it. And she did that, and then she started her blog, and that has really helped. And because she's reached so many people, it's become something else, hasn't it? It's become an awareness, and she uses it as a tool to talk to other people in the same situation, or if you're not in the same situation, you could get an understanding of the situation, like through the eyes of a cancer kid. You know, that's the way she did it. You say about your blog.
Yeah, I really love writing my blog. I just at the start, I like to write things down, because when I started my blog, I used to feel quite down because just the nausea you got from the chemo just really made you feel so down. And yeah, so I started writing my blog, and I just wanted to help others like me as well. And recently I've kind of branched out to doing YouTube videos as well, which is really fun to do.
Well, let's tell our listeners where to find these things. Okay, your blog Ellie's blog can be found at Teen Girl Living with Cancer. That's Teen Girl Living with Cancer at blogspot.co.uk. And your YouTube is Team Ellie, right?
Yes, this is Team Ellie.
Excellent. Yeah, because I know, Ellie, you probably don't, I could be wrong, but do you come into contact with other teens that often?
Yeah, I do actually a lot.
Through the blog?
Oh, no, not so much through the blog, but on my Instagram, I have a lot of kids that talk to me on there. There's loads of cancer kids, which is really nice.
Well, this is an example also of where social media is so helpful because, you know, at those times when you're not feeling well and you are down and you're isolated, it's a way that you can keep in touch with the world, which is wonderful. I think you should.
Yes, I love that, yeah.
So again, Ellie's blog can be found at Teen Girl Living with Cancer at blogspot.co.uk. And the Instagram, that's Team Ellie blog?
Yeah, Team Ellie _blog.
Team Ellie _blog is her Instagram account. So you kids listening, connect up, right?
Yeah.
And so you're off of school right now. So what are you going to do this summer, Ellie?
Well, no, we still have, I think, about 6 weeks until our summer. America, you don't get quite a long summer, don't you? But we only get 6 weeks. So this summer I'm going to a English holiday called Center Parks. I'm not sure if you have that in America. It's just like an outdoorsy place. And what else am I doing? Mountain. We're going to take her to see a dolphin in Ireland.
Oh, wonderful.
She wanted to swim with dolphins, but I don't agree with SeaWorld, and we're not doing Florida till next year. So I tried to find somewhere where I could take her where you could naturally see a dolphin. And apparently there's one, he's about 35 years old, off the coast of Ireland, and he hangs out in this cove. So we're going to go and see him, and she wants a helicopter ride. She's going to climb the O2 building in London.
Fantastic.
Well,
Ellie and Sam, I am so sorry that we're finally we're out of time. Please promise me you'll come back and update us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Teen Girl Living with Cancer at blogspot.co.uk. Goodbye, everyone.
You have found inspiration from today's show. For more about Janet Demeter and her mission, visit jacksangels.org. As founder and president, Janet strives to assure that children with cancer and their parents have a voice, raising